Hey folks, I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and today on Homebrew Review we are looking at AStar, which is a game by Aaron Curtis based on a calculator game called D-Star, which I admit I've never played, nor had I even heard of before this review. Now, I don't know what calculators D-Star would have been running on, but I suspect it would have to be a Texas Instruments graphing calculator or something of the like, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to do much graphically. You would just have numbers on an LED display, and you certainly couldn't have a game with this much complexity in it on one of those. Although complexity might be the wrong word, but it would certainly be more than 9 numbers on an LED display could do. Now, the premise is simple enough. You are controlling this character that looks like Pac-Man, and he can only move in straight lines. Once he starts moving, he can't stop until he hits a wall or an obstacle, so no turning around, no stopping midway. You have to go until you hit something. Your goal is to pick up all of the different objects which appear to be fruit, befitting the Pac-Man theme they've given it here, although some of them you're not easily going to be able to get to just by moving Pac-Man. That's what this dot is for. You can hit the trigger button and switch between Pac-Man and the dot. And if there's a wall that you can't get around because you can only move in straight lines and you can't turn, you put the dot in the way so that the dot becomes your obstacle, and when you run into the dot, then you can turn the direction that you want to turn. So it's a two-part puzzle game. You move your character, but you move the obstacle as well. And you have to work together and combine the two to clear all of the fruit in the maze. Now, there's a different amount of moves for each level, and your ideal score would be under that number of moves, but when you exceed that number of moves, the game gives you a little warning saying, bump, bump, oh well, you didn't make it under the minimum number of moves that we expected you to do it, but it doesn't game over you or make you stop. You can keep going until you solve the puzzle, no matter how many moves it takes you. It's not one of those games where they punish you for your failure to succeed. They're just encouraging you to get it done in as few moves as possible. But if you don't, no worries, just keep playing. This one is available as a free download to demo on AtariAge.com. And the entry for it on Atari Age in the 2600 section reads like this. The number of moves you've made is shown at the bottom of the screen. Each level has a minimum number of moves required to complete it. If you go over this, the display will change color. Completing every level in the minimum number of moves wins the game. AStar may be purchased in cartridge form from the Atari Age store. So let's take a look and see if it's still available and how much it sells for. Going to the Homebrew section on AtariAge.com, I see AStar is still available for $25, plus shipping, of course. They have both NTSC and PAL variants, so whichever region you live in, whatever kind of Atari 2600 you have, this will work on it. And it is well reviewed, which is not surprising because I find it to be an incredibly fun game to play. 5 stars from Jan Small, 4 stars from Nathan Strum, who is himself a programmer of Atari 2600 homebrews, 4 stars by Stan Dean, 5 stars by Raul Torres. I would go somewhere between 4 and 5 stars myself because this does all the things I would want a 2600 homebrew to do in the limited amount of program cycles that you can render on a 2600. I'm getting distracted by Tango here, sorry. He's making a fuss. Maybe he wants some food, maybe he wants some love. It was just sitting in my lap a few minutes ago, so I think the only reason he's making a fuss is because he hears me talking, and that means he wants my attention again because he knows I'm up to something. So what was I saying? Yes, this does everything right. It doesn't try to do things that an Atari game shouldn't do. Like yes, Tango, I hear you. Like overwhelming you with complex graphics that it's very hard for an Atari 2600 to render. It doesn't do that. It may be blocky, but it's appealing in its blockiness. It's not, yes, Tango, yes. It's not ugly to look at. The mazes are well defined. They're easy to understand. The objectives are easy to understand. There's, oh my goodness, what is up with you? Okay. The sound is used correctly to indicate that you've picked up items, completed levels. It's not overwhelming you or grating or irritating. The music isn't left on continuously, which can be a real problem with the basic sound that comes out of the 2600, unless you have a PokeChip enhanced game or Pitfall 2, something like that. You've heard me say this before, sorry. Anyway, the intro music, it's good, and the music when you complete a level, it's good, but it doesn't drone on. The minute you pick up a fruit, that's it. So good on Aaron Curtis for knowing the limits of the 2600 and not trying to exceed them. He's made a game that works within the framework of the system, which is what you should ask for with a homebrew. Like, do what that system can do well. If it can render multiple sprites, then go ahead and do that. If it can't, then figure out what to do within those limits. If it can scroll horizontally or vertically, do that. And if it can't, figure out what to do within those limits, or come up with a way to put a buffer around the screen and use that buffer to do your scrolling. I mean, there are tricks you can implement. You can come up with different ways to solve these problems, and that's what homebrewers do and why I admire and respect them so much, especially when they create something fun to play. Worth $25? I guess that's up to you. If you own a 2600 and you want a new game, I'd say yes. But maybe you're not into puzzle games or maze games, or maybe you think the price is too high for something this simple. I would beg to differ, because I feel like it's not easy to program for a 2600 and you have to respect the effort behind it. And that effort is worth $25 as far as I'm concerned, because let me just be frank, unless you're a programmer watching this, you try to do this and see if you can make something nearly as good. I used to do a little coding in BASIC on Commodore computers when I was a kid, and I don't think I ever came up with anything like this. And I did take some C++ in college, and I wasn't making games with it, and certainly not anything like this. So I respect the hustle and how much you have to race the beam on the 2600 to produce anything of any technical quality. And this one certainly has it and shows it. There's no flickering, no glitching, no runtime errors, nothing that gets in the way of having a good experience. It's all here. It all works the way it's supposed to. And there's a charm to having your avatar look like Pac-Man. I don't know how Namco feels about that, or Bandai Namco, I should say, but I suspect either an Atari homebrew isn't something big enough for them to go after, or they have a very hard time trademarking something as simple as a circle with a wedge taken out of it, like a slice of pizza taken out of a whole pie, which is where the inspiration for the Pac-Man look came from, if you didn't already know that. So, bottom line here, I like AStar. Never played D-Star, but I would play D-Star based on AStar, even if Pac-Man isn't included in the game. I think this premise is a lot of fun. I like the challenge. I like figuring out how to solve each of these mazes by moving your avatar and then moving the dot. It's something that I wish you could do in games like Boxel or Sokoban if you prefer, because you can always get stuck in a corner because you have nothing else to move to turn you around once you get stuck. And here, you have that option. You can create your own wall, and you can turn around by running into that wall, and in Boxel, you just can't do that. Although in Boxel, most versions of it, you can at least back up to a previous move if the move you made didn't work. And also, you're not moving in a straight line with all of your momentum, so perhaps it's unfair to compare the two. I really don't know. But just watching this particular level, I think you get an idea of how you can solve these problems. You can go around in a circle and put the dot where you need to, and then you can clear the level that way. And it's fun when you finally realize that's the solution. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This has been Homebrew Review. Like, share, comment, subscribe. All of those things help the channel grow, and we have new content every single day, so if you click on that notification bell, you'll always get alerted, but if not, just check your subscriber feed tab, and you'll find stuff when it goes live. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again really soon. Peace.